Hi guys. Before we proceed to this video, we've got something very important to share with you. Neoliberalism, Inequality and Authoritarianism by Professor John V. Kofis is available for purchase. You can order it directly from the publisher Little French eBooks or through Amazon.
Artificial intelligence is at the center of the US-China technological war, and it has been for some time. It is also at the center of all hopes on the part of the United States to revive Pax Americana, the era of the American century, namely the previous century, when the United States was the undisputed economic hegemon on the planet. Artificial intelligence has many tentacles. Some of them hold the promise of being very beneficial for society. For example, artificial intelligence has been and will be used even more for medical procedures and medical advances. This is a positive development. On the downside, the reality is that it is not any good to have such advancements when they are unaffordable for the majority of the population, especially in countries like the United States, where the healthcare system is the world's most expensive. Artificial intelligence also holds the promise of rescuing miners in deep operations, underground operations. It holds the promise of rescuing trapped skiers in mountains. It holds the promise of making manual labor tasks much easier and much cheaper. On the other hand, it also holds the promise of making war much more deadly and making the making society much more vulnerable to surveillance by authoritarian states, including democratic states that present themselves as beacons of freedom and democracy and pluralism, when in fact their policies are rooted in injustice, social injustice, and militarism. So, artificial intelligence is not necessarily the techno fix panacea that it has been presented by the apologists. The fact is that artificial intelligence will be operating within the capitalist world system. And as an aspect of that system, it will operate by the rules of capitalism. This means systemic exploitation of labor will be, and already is, according to the International Labor Organization statistics, a part of artificial intelligence. This is not to argue that artificial intelligence will eliminate hundreds of millions of jobs, as Goldman Sachs report has and other reports have stated, in the coming decades. Not just that, it will also drive wages and living standards for the vast majority of the working class and middle class down. And this is exactly what has happened in history. And we have seen this during the Industrial Revolution of England. In fact, young Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, A Modern Prometheus, published in 1818, was profoundly influenced by the Luddite movement in taking place in England during the Napoleonic Wars in the first half of the 1810s. The Luddites, named after a man who led them, Ned Ludd, were basically factory workers, textile workers, who objected not just to the technology replacing them and driving down wages, but also to the but more important and more accurate, um, to the technology that capitalists and the state used in order to keep wages down, to break contracts, labor contracts, to basically exploit workers more thoroughly. The new Frankenstein, the new modern Prometheus, the classical Greek mythological figure, is indeed artificial intelligence. This is an instrument that both the state and the private sector, both capitalist class and the state, will use at the expense of the working class and the middle class. They have already done so. This is not hypothetical. Again, I refer to the International Labor Organization statistics, which indicate that artificial intelligence has already driven wages down. According to a number of reports, published reports in the United States, some 60% of US companies plan to lay off using hundreds of thousands of workers by the end of 2026, using artificial intelligence as a pretext, and also to keep wages down at a time of rising cost of living. So artificial intelligence in the hands of the capitalist class and the increasingly authoritarian state behind the thin veil of democracy, when in fact it's a militaristic and socially unjust state based on the policies it pursues, not the rhetoric it spews out, but the policies. This already indicates that the future does not look good. This does not mean that artificial intelligence per se is an evil entity any more than the modern textile machines of the early 19th century in England, when Mary Shelley was writing Frankenstein and was using this monster to as a symbol to demonstrate what can go wrong with the ambition of a scientist and what the results and consequences can be to society as a result of that. We are living in an age where at technofix, people are led to believe that a technofix like artificial intelligence is the panacea for society, rather than public policy rooted in social justice and peace, instead of militarism and continued exploitation of labor and the middle class, especially the lower middle class. I ask you to take a look at the longer video on this topic. This is a very complex topic because artificial intelligence has tentacles in so many areas, from medical science to defense and police surveillance. And it obviously impacts the entire world. Right now, artificial intelligence has already caused problems, especially with low wage labor, as little as 41 cents per hour in Madagascar, Africa, and $2 an hour in the Indian subcontinent. So this is a reality right now. The future is even more doubtful as artificial intelligence becomes more perfected, and countries and companies are competing to lay out the best product. Um, Again, I ask you to invite you, and I ask you to join me and take a look at the longer video, and please subscribe to this channel and follow our latest developments. Thank you very much.